Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out Jasmy coin's price chart. And as you can see, a lot has happened in the last 48 hours. And let that be a lesson to all of us to understand that under any kind of circumstances, we should not use leverage at all. Why? Because you see, sometimes we say, well, okay, don't be over leveraged. And by that, we are talking about do not have any positions with, like, let's say a 1 to 5 to 1 to 10 leverage. But a lot of people actually consider having like 1 to 2 to even to some degree, I would say 1 to 3 leverage, kind of a safe position. However, I guarantee you that in this phase, none of them were safe. Why? Because you see, whenever you are having a 1 to 5 leverage, that means if the price goes down 20%, you are going to get liquidated and you are going to lose all your money. Now, if you are having a 1 to 3 leverage, that means if the price goes down about 33.5%, you are going to get liquidated. And if you got a 1 to 2 leverage, which is basically the safest position with leverage that you are allowed to have, then okay, if the price goes down 50%, you are going to at that point get liquidated. Now, have a guess, please, how strong this move on the downside was actually. You see, the beginning of the crashing hour was right in here about 1.19 cents. And as you can see, from here to about the lows, we got a 63% move on the downside. And that means what? Yep. Even if you had a 1 to 2 tiny leverage positions, even in that case, you got rigged and you lost all your money. And if you haven't and you only hold some spots, that's awesome. I love that for you. And again, let that be a lesson to you as well. Do not use leverage under any kind of circumstances. And it's not all this. So you see, because everybody in this process got liquidated, now I think it is very much safe to say that probably, I'm going to say this with like a 90% certainty, and trust me, the only and only reason that I'm not saying this with 100% certainty is because I accept that there is no certainty in any market. So let me just say this. I am as sure as it gets that we are not going to see some strong moves on the downside in Jasmy, or for that matter, any other alts from the current point at least, in order to reach to about these levels, about let's say 0.6, 0.7 of a cent. And odds are, yeah, these prices are pretty much gone forever. So if you are one of those rare few people that during this period your exchange works properly, congratulations. If you bought the dip, I think you are not going to regret it at all. Now, in terms of what I did, unfortunately, I wasn't that lucky, and Binance was actually, I think, alive when we got to 1 cent area, which wasn't really ideal, but nonetheless, I did buy the dip a little bit, since I do think these are actually very, very cheap prices, and we are probably not going to see them by the end of this cycle at least. Who knows what is going to happen in the next cycle? I don't know. Maybe we are going to have some sort of a black swan, but as long as we're not having that though, yep, probably the bottom in Jasmy coin, and I would say for that matter in the whole altcoin market is in. Now, having said that, this doesn't necessarily mean that in the next, I'm going to say 5 to 7 days, we are not allowed to have moves on the downside. In fact, I do think we are going to have some moves down, and that can be a buy the dip opportunity for us. Why? Let's summon more. Okay, if you are interested in Elliott's waves, and let's just say this, if you are not interested in Elliott's waves and you think having a 5-wave up is absolute BS, then okay, it's probably going to be a really big surprise for you to see that off of the lowest low in Jasmy in this initial bounce, we did get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside to about this point, and followed by that we are having a correction. Let's rush it down, and I am actually willing to say that probably the end of our correction was right in here, due to the fact that this initial bounce in here looks a lot like an ABC as opposed to an impulse. So maybe this is 5 down into A, this is correction for wave B, and a truncated wave on the downside into our C leg. And I know truncated waves are quite rare, but I do think once in a while we are allowed to consider them. And what is happening right now? Well, first things first, this seems to be quite a strong move on the upside, and that, my friends, makes me say, you know what, probably this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a larger degree wave 3, correction for 4, another move up into wave 5. And you might say, well, okay, maybe this move is going to get massively extended and we are going to have at that point a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? More power to you. This scenario can absolutely be in play. However, in my view, in the next 72 hours, we need to be unfortunately a bit patient, and maybe a better count is going to be having in this area a series of 1-2s. This can be 1, correction for 2, and what's next? Good move up into wave 3, 4, 5, which on a higher degree is going to be into this wave 3 and 4 and 5. Basically, I do think we are going to recover from these areas, but in the next 48 to 72 hours, there is a chance that in Jasmy, and for that matter, probably in a lot of other alts, we are going to get some moves on the downside, hopefully into our wave 2. Now, why is that I think soon this move is going to come to an end? Well, reason number 1, naturally, it's going to be because of Elliott's waves, and it does seem like we are approaching to the end of this phase up. And reason number 2, you want to remember, tomorrow stock market is going to get open, and on Tuesday banks are going to be open. So I'm going to argue probably in a stock market we are going to see some selling pressure in the next 48 to 72 hours, and there is a decent chance that that is going to also create some selling pressure in Bitcoin and probably a lot of altcoins. But then, since I do think a lot of people are going to say this is yet another classic example of taco trade, then most likely the prices are going to recover and we are going to go up once more. And I actually forgot to tell you this at the beginning of the video. You see, the beginning of the crashing hour was right in here and the price was about 1.19 cents. Where are we right now? In Jasmy, right in here, we are around 1.1 cents, meaning in the last 48 hours on net, we got literally just a teeny tiny 8% move on the downside. So if you hold some spots, you're not even going to feel this very strong move down. It was only very much hurtful if you had leverage positions in here. So again, do not open any leverage positions. That is going to end up really badly for you. And having said that, I very much understand that probably during this cycle, probably actually at the end of it, when alts are going to go up big time, you are going to open some leverage positions again, and probably a lot of you are going to lose money. But my job is to tell you what I think is wrong and what I think is the right thing to do. At the end of the day, you are responsible for your own money. Do whatever you want. And now that we talked about what is happening in the short term, let's go on daily time frame, because this move down actually changed a lot of things in Jasmy coin and a whole lot of other alts. You see, the mid to long term scenario in Jasmy coin was that we are having from the lowest low about, let's say, 0.26 of a cent, 5 up into 1, correction for 2, another move up into wave 3, and maybe this is an ABC flat into wave 4, and followed by that, we can have yet another move up into wave 5 by the end of this cycle in order to take the highest high for the first target, about 5.7 cents. However, since now we are having clearly overlapping of the waves between this phase down and also this move, I think it makes sense to change our counts a little bit and argue probably, yep, we have completed a 5 wave to about the highest high, and this, my friends, is a correction structure on the downside. And let's actually delete all the waves in here. There we go. Let's just delete all these things. I think we can say maybe we are having the sub waves in here for an ABC zigzag. You can also consider a WXY in form of a double zigzag. Since we are having such an insanely deep move on the downside, doesn't really matter a whole lot, honestly. The point that I'm trying to make is this. In my view, in Jasmy coin, it is now very much fair to argue that this whole move down is on the same degree as this one. And I still do believe that we are going to have another big move up by the end of this cycle. However, the shape of that is going to be a bit different. Why? Because overall, now I want to entertain the idea of having an ABC zigzag, and in terms of the sub waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into A. Let's change the colors to white. There we go. Correction for wave B. Let's say WXY in this instance, doesn't really matter a whole lot generally, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. Now let's go on the live chart. Okay, you see, in my view, in Jasmy, this is absolutely a correction structure, and you can in fact now argue, you know what, maybe we had in this region an A, B, C, D, E, a triangle, and this can be another A, B, C zigzag. Generally, this is a correction. Let's say, yeah, okay, WXY in form of a double zigzag. And since I think the low is already in, okay, we can expect then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up in order to complete the subwaves for an ABC zigzag. Excuse me, I just took the wrong object like this. Now, there's actually a very important difference between this and the previous count, and it's actually the fact that if this scenario is happening, which I do think it's actually playing out, okay, this 5 wave up is going to happen quite fast. So if you are looking for an altcoin season, be careful. It might happen really, really quickly, and you need to be ready to get out of your positions, okay? This is a very, very important point to understand, because in a lot of altcoins, we basically had, prior to this crash, like a series of 1-2s according to our bullish cases, but now all of these things are completely invalidated, and now we should probably consider having just one more strong move on the upside in order to take all the highs, and that would probably go well with the narrative of a very brief altcoin season. So overall, as you can see in Jasmy coin, despite even the recent move on the downside, I do not think that we should be overwhelmingly bearish. In fact, I would like to argue that, yeah, we have probably hit the lows, and overall, the general scenario has changed a bit, and as opposed to a 5 wave, now we should consider an ABC zigzag. However, the conclusion, as you can see, is once more the same, indicating, yeah, probably by the end of this cycle, we are going to have another move up. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Jasmy. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.